Hello and welcome to this devotional from the UNFIJ in Jesus team. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most practical chapters in the entire Bible, Psalm 127. In a world that is just obsessed with building bigger, faster, and stronger, this ancient wisdom gives us a divine blueprint, a plan from Solomon himself on how to build a life that will actually last. So let me just start by asking you a question, straight up. Are you building a life that will last? It is so easy to get caught up in the grind, isn't it? Building our careers, trying to secure our futures, just checking off all the boxes. But this psalm, it forces us to hit pause and ask a much more important question. Are we building on the right foundation? So to find that answer, let's jump into our first section here, the architect's dilemma. The psalm gets right to the heart of the problem with all our human effort when it's totally disconnected from God.
And here it is, verse 1. The great builder, King Solomon, he writes this: "Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain." Wow, that's a powerful statement, isn't it? It's all about how pointless our work can be when God isn't the one in charge of the project.
Now, when Solomon says house, he's not just talking about bricks and mortar. We have to think bigger. He means your family, that career you're pouring your heart and soul into, the legacy you're hoping to leave. Really, any major life project you're building from the ground up. And this is exactly why this verse is such a vital check on our own self-reliance. I mean, we can have the best plans, right? The strongest work ethic. We can stay up all night guarding what we've built. But if the Lord's blessing and direction aren't in it, Solomon says it's all ultimately in vain. And listen, this isn't just some Old Testament concept. You fast forward a few centuries, and Jesus himself echoes this exact same principle. In John 15:5, he says, "I am the vine, ye are the branches. For without me, ye can do nothing." It's this incredible picture of how we completely depend on him for anything that's going to have real, lasting value. But the psalm doesn't just point out the problem. It actually gives us the solution. So in our second section, we're going to explore this amazing gift of rest and how we can go from all that anxious work to the kind of divine peace only God can offer. Verse 2 paints a picture that, well, let's be honest, it might feel a little too familiar for a lot of us. It says, "It is vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows." Now, this isn't a knock on hard work. It's a warning against that frantic, worried, everything depends on me kind of striving. Let's talk about that phrase for a second. The bread of sorrows. It's so vivid. It's that feeling of trying to eat a meal when you are just completely consumed by stress and anxiety about work. It's when our labor literally robs us of our peace, and it poisons even the simple, good things in life. So the psalm gives us this really stark contrast. On one side, you've got the vain striving of our modern burnout culture. But on the other side, you have God's simple, profound gift to those he loves: sleep. And we're not just talking about getting our 8 hours in. This is about a deep, soul-level peace that only comes from trusting that he is in control.
So how do we get that gift? Well, the Apostle Peter tells us exactly how. In 1 Peter 5:7, he says we should be casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. The connection is so direct. We can actually rest because he is working. We can have peace because he genuinely, deeply cares for us.
Okay, so then the blueprint shifts a little. It moves from the work of our hands to the fruit of our lives. In section 3, we see that a lasting legacy, especially through our family, is also a gift that comes straight from God. Verse 3 is just crystal clear. It says, "Lo, children are an heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward." The words here are so important. Children aren't an accident. They're not a burden. They are called an inheritance and a reward given by God himself. And this puts the biblical mindset in direct opposition to how our modern culture sometimes talks about kids, doesn't it? Sometimes they're framed as a personal inconvenience or just a financial drain. But the psalm calls us to see them as a gracious, precious gift that's been entrusted to us. And then the imagery gets even more powerful. Verse 4 says, "As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth." What an incredible metaphor. Children aren't meant to just sit around. They are like arrows, just full of potential and purpose, ready to be launched into the world. And if you think about an arrow, its journey has 3 parts, right? First, it's carefully shaped. That's us, raising our children in the Lord. Second, it's carefully aimed. We prepare them with a godly purpose. And finally, it's released to make a real impact on the world for his kingdom. The psalm ends with this picture of speaking with enemies in the gate. Now, in ancient culture, the city gate was where everything happened. It was the center of public life, of business, of justice. So a man with a quiver full of sons, well, he had honor, he had strength, and he had a voice that couldn't just be ignored. A godly family was a fortress. So, after all this profound wisdom about work and rest and family, we get to our final section, your divine blueprint. The big question is, how do we take these ancient truths and actually apply them to our lives today?
Here are 4 real, practical steps we can take away from this blueprint. Number 1, start everything with prayer. Acknowledge your total dependence on Him. 2, work hard, absolutely, but trust God with the results. Reject that pressure to burn out. 3, intentionally receive rest and sleep as a gift from a loving Father. And number 4, value your family as the divine heritage and reward that it is.
And that leaves us with one final personal question for you to reflect on. As you look at your career, your family, all your goals, what part of your life do you need to stop trying to build in your own strength and finally hand back to the divine architect?